You know that feeling, right? You spent months, maybe even years, learning a new language. You've memorized all the vocabulary lists, you've perfected the grammar, and then you find yourself on a real street corner completely lost. You know the words, but when someone gives you directions, it all just turns into a blur. Today, we're going to unpack why that disconnect exists and explore a really powerful technique to finally bridge that gap from the textbook to real-world territory. All right, let's dive right into this common frustration. We're calling it the learning gap. It's that space between knowing a language in theory and actually being able to use it on the street. So, what is going on here? Why is it that those perfectly pronounced sentences from your language app just seem to vanish the moment you actually need them? The answer? Well, it might surprise you. What's so fascinating here is that the problem usually isn't your vocabulary. Nope. The real challenge is processing that information in real time, under pressure, with all the background noise and distractions of the real world. It's one thing to know the phrase, turn left at the bank, but it's a whole other thing to hear it, process it, and act on it before you've already walked right past the turn. Okay, so how do we train for that real-world pressure? Well, there's a simple yet incredibly effective activity that's designed to do just that. We'll call it the navigation challenge. It's an activity called listening and following directions. And the concept is super straightforward. You listen to a set of directions, and you physically trace the route on a map. See, this isn't just listening, it's listening with a purpose, with a real tangible goal. I love this analogy. Think of it as a flight simulator for your language skills. It's a perfect way to describe it. This method lets you practice a high-stakes skill, like navigating a new city, in a totally safe, low-stakes environment. You can crash and burn, or in this case, get completely lost on paper, with zero real-world consequences. So let's break down how this actually works. Step 1 is simple. Just listen. Absorb the flow of the directions without hitting pause or trying to write anything down. Then, step 2, identify. You start connecting the words you hear, like post office or bridge, to the actual landmarks you see on the map. And finally, step 3, follow. You physically trace the route as it's being described. This whole process transforms passive hearing into a really active, physical task. But why is this simple little exercise so powerful? Let's get into the cognitive stuff, the mechanics of how it builds what you could call a mental map for language. The crucial shift here is moving from passive listening over to active comprehension. You know, with passive listening, you're just hearing words. Maybe you're memorizing lists out of context. And because of that, your retention is pretty low. But with active comprehension, you're actually performing a task. You have direct context, which forces you to process information. And that leads to much, much higher retention. And this right here, this is the secret sauce. This activity forces your brain to build a bridge between two totally different functions, language processing and spatial reasoning. You're not just understanding words anymore, you're translating those words into a physical space and a set of actions. That connection is what real-world navigation is all about. At the end of the day, practicing with a map isn't really about becoming a great map reader. It's all about the transferable skills you take with you when you walk out the door. So let's look at the real-world payoff. So what exactly are you developing here? Well, first, your listening skills get a major boost. You learn to pick out key details from a whole stream of speech. Second, your comprehension improves because you're understanding language in a functional, goal-oriented way. And maybe most importantly, you get practice with practical, contextual application, the very thing that textbooks just can't teach you. Because let's be real, we all have GPS on our phones now. The point of this exercise has never, ever been just about finding a dot on a piece of paper. The true goal here is to build the confidence to navigate any conversation. By mastering a small, controlled scenario like this, you develop the underlying skills and, just as important, the self-assurance to handle the unpredictable, fast-paced interactions of the real world. You really learn to trust your ears and to trust your own understanding. So, it leaves us with this final thought. It's pretty amazing when you think about it, isn't it? That sometimes the most direct path to fluency isn't buried in some complex grammar book, but it's found by tracing a simple line on a map. It just goes to show you that true language mastery is really all about connecting words to the world around us.